Problems of linear economy can be better understood through the lens of a waste management expert. We have Ashish Sachdeva, who is committed to the service of people and the planet. Utilizing his vast and diverse experience and technical know how, he fosters an ecosystem where not only environmental issues are talked about from a neutral standpoint, but also technical solutions and innovations are deployed by driving the triple bottom line. Let's hear Ashish.
I've tried making this module, as simple as and as visual as possible. So this way it's very easier for us to understand because, being the first module, we're setting our basics right. And, just looking at this picture itself, the intro slide tells you, whether we want this or that. These are real pictures. And the left one is actually happens to be a landfill near to where I personally live as well. And so we know, if someone's to ask us this or that, our answer will definitely be that. And how is it linked to the concepts of linear versus circular economy is what we discuss today. So we can move on to the next slide. So here are some numbers, if people in the environmental domain would already have a hang of it. But just for everyone's perspective, just understanding what's happening in India. India's producing, these are numbers which are already a couple of years old, so you can understand the numbers are much higher now. And our consumption trends have seen an upside during the lockdowns because packaging, everything was happening at home and the packaging boosted significantly. India is I think producing as of today at least 300 million tons of solid waste, and more than 10 million tons of that is the plastic waste, which plays a very important role. A lot of times when we think about circular or linear, and we tend to think only about one type of material, but I think that it's applicable to our entire economy, all kinds of material and all kinds of waste that we generate. So today we'll try to have that holistic view that why obviously we have mentioned, and there has been a lot of buzz about plastic being the problem, but I think it's more to do with the way the products are designed and how the consumers, the urban local bodies, and all of us have been into a certain type of culture to manage the end of life products. So moving on to the next one. This is a very interesting concept. I like to talk about it a lot of times. The Earth Overshoot Day. So basically, it is the day when it's like everything has a budget. So Earth's resources also have a budget, and so every year they calculate that whatever it is humans demand from the natural resources, that exhausts on a particular day because the Earth can only regenerate so much. And so based on that, a day comes in and you can see that the day has been falling earlier and earlier, which is telling us that the load on natural resources is higher than ever before. For 2021, the year that we are in, this day fell on July 29th. So ideally, we want this day to be falling as late as possible in the year, because the earlier it is, then you're on a deficit. So almost for 5 months in this year, we are going to be exhausting more resources than Earth could regenerate in that given year. That's a point of worry. That also tells you that one Earth is not being sufficient for the demand of the human beings, and that's why how it links beautifully to the concept of linear and circular economy is that our culture has been to make, use, and dispose, but the mindset has to now change that nothing is a waste and everything is a resource. And not just that mindset change, but also the design change. So every product at the end of its cycle becomes the raw material, or it takes any other form for another industry or another purpose. So let's move on to the next one. And see, such scenes become pretty common. In fact, we were seeing good quality days in a lot of places in India due to good rainfall this year. But as and when we are entering the winters, we see that there are a lot of environmental issues that kind of surround us, which remind you that we cannot take any of those things for granted. We can't even take blue skies for granted. And if we do not find a problem with this, then I think the problem lies with us. And by us, we mean the human race, the way we consume things, the way we consume natural resources. Let's see the next one. So see, linear economy, like the term itself suggests, it's a line. Right. And, a tagline to define it is that it's an environmental, financial, and cultural issue as well to address. Why it is an environmental issue? Because so let's imagine, all of you present here, what would have been your latest big buy? What big product did you buy? It could have been a phone in the last 6 months, a television, some furniture item, and especially now with the festive season and Diwali approaching, a lot of this cleansing of the houses start happening. So a lot of things are being replaced, right? But I'm assuming that these things are generally bought as replacements for the previous items that you're throwing away. So where does all the stuff go? That's a question. Even if individuals can ask to each other, a lot of problem will get solved. Unfortunately, the current economic model, like I said earlier, it's take, make, dispose. So we're taking from the planet, we are making the product that we need, and we're just disposing it. Say we say throw away. There is no away. It is still there on the planet. There was a product that could have been recycled or repurposed or reused. But because we did not have those kind of systems in place, that kind of mindset in place, those kind of services in place, all of that ends up going into the landfill. There is a certain limit to which we can keep taking it. We have to give it back. We hear this very frequently. Let's give it back to the planet, and that's what we are talking about. We have to become at least consumption neutral, so that at least we are not putting any extra pressure, because then that way we are not the concept of smart cities, extended producer responsibility, sustainability, all of this is closely tied up to the concepts of how we run our economy, because that's a fundamental change from the time the products will be designed, manufactured, consumed, and brought back into the economy. But linear economy, on the other side, we are taking, this has been the culture, and that's why I say it's a cultural issue, and changing people, changing businesses, it's going to take a lot of education, consistent effort, consistent engagement. So we take the materials, we make the products to sell it, and once these products have reached the end of their life, we dispose them. In simple words, this is linear economy, where everything you use at one point becomes of no use to you, but we don't realize it still has resources that can be put back into the economy, wherein the minimal residual waste goes to the landfill. Even the approach of zero waste to landfill is only possible if we really move away from what we are seeing on the screen right now. Let's see the next slide, please. So we were referring, I think, as soon as I joined, you talking about the industrial part of it, its impact on the environment, and this one-way production model or linear economy. It has dominated our manufacturing since the time the industrial revolution started. The take, make, dispose logic is completely blind to the planet's capacity. We don't understand. I think, maybe 3 or 4 decades ago, it was fine, but with rapid urbanization, with population increasing, and all those old resources that have not been brought back into our economies, everyone, including the manufacturers, the producers, are realizing, the cost of the raw materials also on the rise. So it's in everyone's benefit, and that's why in the previous slide it said financial as well. Not just for the consumers, but also for the manufacturers. So it's a win-win situation if we go for it. The thing is that, the degradation of the ecosystem, the greenhouse gas emissions, which is directly impacting the public health, impacting the biodiversity, like the theme for World Environment Day this year was generation restoration, right? So we're talking about restoring, we're talking about ecosystems, we're talking about species going extinct. And so we have very limited time left. And I'm glad that there has been a lot of focus on topics like these. However, the biggest issue is there is a question, but I think we can just take it in, as soon as the slides end. Considering the majority of the resources are finite and often used well above the land's regenerative capacity, we have to find new models that will allow us to thrive with nature. So it's not about, it's nature that is letting us thrive. We actually always have to remind ourselves, it's not us. If we do not get our act together, nature already knows how to get it done. And that's why everything designed in nature, you will see, is never linear. Even a leaf that drops from the tree eventually plays a role in the growth of a new plant, because it decomposes, it becomes manure or compost, and then it adding nutrients back into the chain. So everything designed in nature is non-linear, and that's why if we have to live in harmony with nature, we have to change our economic structures or ways of living accordingly. Let's see the next slide, please. So here we are saying, hey, linear, your time is gone. Let's meet circular. Let's move on to the next one. It is very simply designed in a pictorial format for everyone to understand. Linear economy, you're taking from nature, you're manufacturing, using, and disposing at the bottom in the bin. Then there is something between linear and circular, which is recycling economy, which I guess has caught up pace in our country and across the world over the last 1 decade. We are taking from the nature, we are using it for the purpose, and we are trying to recycle as much as we can, but still a good amount of waste is ending up going to the landfills, which is not found any purpose. Circular economy, on the other hand, works with the vision of sending almost zero waste to landfill, wherein there is almost null residual that has to be disposed of. However, because we are manufacturing, once we have used it, there are concepts of the concepts beyond recycling as well. So there is upcycling, there is reuse, there is repurpose, and there are a couple of other infographics that you'll see. The point is that circle itself defines that we have to stay away from that mindset that anything is waste. Anything that is lying in your bin right now is also not waste, and like we all understand. And at times we do not understand, but those waste pickers, whether they are formal waste collectors or informal waste collectors, they know the value of each material which is lying even in your bin. I'm just giving the simplest possible example, but let's imagine every stuff around you that that you own or are surrounded by at the moment. Your laptop, it could be your flower pot, it could be your furniture, it could be anything, it could be your electronic appliances. Each and everything, when it is of no use to you, in a current scenario today, it is increasingly becoming useful to other industries, right? There is a value of e-waste. There is value of there are people who are trying to upcycle used furniture. The people who are trying to upcycle all of the kinds of waste which did not have a lot of value. At the same time, there is a lot of pressure, or you can say the good kind of much needed pressure on the producers and manufacturers to redesign the way they are manufacturing products. Right now, until now, majorly, even the biggest of the brands have just manufactured products from a profit standpoint and convenience standpoint. They were not looking at the end of life, what happens when the product has been consumed. And that's when EPR, the extended producer responsibility, comes into the picture. Some of you might be aware that yesterday, new amendments have come into the EPR. The PWM rules 2016 just got another amendment yesterday. So just in case if you do not have it, I can share it with Suparna and she can forward it to all of you. It's a very, very important document for anyone wanting to learn, engage, or do anything in the domain of circular economy. Because now, just touching upon it because it's a huge topic and I can continue because it's one of my favorite topics. For the first time, there are objective targets given to the producers. So, example, companies like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Nestle, all your top FMCG brands now have a target of what plastic waste, what type, what percentage has to be collected. So, in fact, I was at this EPR conference yesterday. It was good to see. It was very good timing that you were talking about EPR at the same time. The plastic amendments are coming in, and so we see that there is policy which is driving this. There are manufacturers who are now rethinking the design altogether, and there are more and more consumers who are aware than ever before, realizing the potential of moving to a circular economy. We can move on to the next slide. So we spoke about linear, we talk about how they look different, but circular economy is definitely the only way towards a sustainable future. There are a lot of definitions out there. Not one is right, but overall, it's all about understanding the concept and having your clear definition of it. So what I wrote is basically, for me, it is rethinking our approach to waste, that, nothing is waste. That's the rethinking we need to do. We are the only people on the planet, only creatures on the planet, who create waste. Today's manufacturing models, like we have discussed, involve just taking the raw material from the environment, creating the products and dispose them. That is never going to work. There are finite resources. Every individual, every community, and even this planet has finite resources. So we have to be resourceful, or you can say, more intelligent about how we consume and how we dispose. And definitely what we have done till now, the culture that we had of disposing of stuff, throwing away stuff is not sustainable. And like I mentioned on the previous slide, and that's why it is in bold, and it entails redesigning products to be more durable, reusable, repairable, and recyclable. A lot of times the products that we're surrounded with, not just talking about plastic, it could even be electronic. The products are designed in such a way that they do not last for long. For example, your a particular brand of phones will slow down in a couple of years, so you have to switch to a newer version, right? Your washing machine stops working and you're not able to find the replacement parts in the market. You kind of stuck, right? That being the environment enthusiast, you want to make sure that you repair it. The hour of repair comes into the play, but you take it to so many vendors, electricians, and they're like, oh, this part does not come anymore. So, ma'am, you have to dispose it off and buy a new one. Now, that is a very disheartening thing, but more importantly, the manufacturer, whether on purpose or not, never thought about the repurposing or repairing of it, because they want people to switch to newer models, because they're thinking just money. They're thinking just economy. But now with all these targets coming in, where they know that even if it has to be disposed, then that also comes under their purview. And that's why we've seen a lot of exchange schemes, things like Cashify happening, wherein mobile phone exchange is becoming a very common thing. But yeah, that is not limited to mobiles. That's not limited to a particular appliance or not a particular commodity that we use. The point is, each and every product that we use in our daily life has to be designed in a way that it can come back to the economy. Otherwise, alone consumers cannot ensure that. Let us understand that. We, the policymakers, the researchers, the academicians, the experts, whosoever we are in the future, we will not be able to make those moves if there is no policy and manufacturer push to make it happen. So we all need to change our thinking irrespective of what is our profession. But at the core, we are talking about rethinking the way we consume and dispose. Next slide, please. Here is a small infographic from UNIDO, wherein it clearly tells you that what has been the predominant situation. We have just been working on linear economy all this while, all these decades, and the efficiency in production has to be increased, but that's the first step in that direction. And that's why you straight away cannot transition immediately from a linear to a circular economy. It takes you have to take baby steps to reach there. Then and it also talks about RECP. So RECP stands for resource efficient and cleaner production. But that is something which a lot of things come under the purview of that. But so let's understand that can always be discussed in more detail. In the third step, we also talk about better product design, like I was mentioning. So obviously at the manufacturing level, you're trying to make sure that there is resource efficiency, but now you're also designing the products differently with the mindset of bringing it back into the economy somehow. And the circular economy eventually, where we all want to achieve, where we all want to reach, is basically a mix of RECP, better product design, and waste management and recycling also being in the purview of the manufacturers and producers to some extent. But more importantly, everything being integrated. FMCG will never become, or an electronics manufacturer will never become a waste management expert. They can enable the resources, but the point is, when we want to reach that level, we have to be integrated in our approach. So they all have to be integrated in a format that they're talking to each other, they're supporting each other, and so that, because even if there is some breakage, that breakage eventually will cause leakage into the landfill or into our oceans. As you will see very rightly on the extreme left, the resources invested in the production go down significantly as we change our approach. When it was the highest in case of linear economy, when we are consuming the maximum number of resources, and the least when we are moving into a circular economy model. So that's another way to look at it as to why the transition to circular economy is not an option, but the only way forward.